Hey everybody, Redbeard here, bringing you something a bit different than what we normally do on the channel. Wanted to talk about a hot button item, that being the going trend of the day, that being masks. So right now everybody's being encouraged to wear some type of PPE, that being personal protective equipment, in order to sort of mutually respectfully limit the spread of the COVID-19 virus. This is something that everybody's being encouraged to do, as I mentioned there. Some folks are having to be encouraged by way of local ordinances or laws. Some people are just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. Well, we're doing it out of a combination of the two here around this part of the world, because the town that I live in did not pass an ordinance. However, a lot of people are just taking it upon themselves to wear the masks, and that's, kind of a cool thing, because it shows that people are starting to say, okay, we want to get back to our normal lives. We don't want to have to continue doing all this stupid stuff in order to go to a store or go to a football game, heaven willing that we have football this year. So what I wanted to do was to talk about my experiences with a couple of different varieties. As you can see, I've amassed something of a collection of these things, and I've gone through and had some various experiences with all of these. I've worn each of these at one point or another, and wanted to share my experiences based on style and my own personal, we'll say, sizing issues that I've encountered with a lot of these things, as it relates to fit, and also it being able to really perform the way you want it to. Because a lot of these things, they can be a face covering, and that they'll cover your mouth and your nose, but are they really doing anything for you? So that's what we're going to look at here as well. Definitely the oldest mask in my collection is this guy right here. This is actually something that I've had for, oh man, 7 or 8 years here now, maybe 7, 8 years, somewhere in there. Definitely shorter than a decade, but I've had it for a while. The reason why I bought this was that it was a mask that was recommended as a dust mask for like riding trails and ATVs and whatnot. You can see it's an ATV tech mask. That was the manufacturer of this particular mask. This is something that I wore in the yard when I was still cutting our own grass and whatnot, and it was great for those purposes, because it really did block out a lot of, actually really all of the dust and particulate that I was encountering when I was doing that. A couple different criticisms for this thing right off the bat. One was that, as you can see, it's got a Velcro enclosure here. This was not big enough for my head based on the immediate sizing option, which was just these two, the normal band that comes on here. Fortunately, they seem to realize, okay, well, we've got people who are wearing these things that have bigger heads than what we've allowed for, so they put that little piece in there to act as an expansion slot. So, they had that in there. The issue, though, is that depending on how you put this thing together, this little area here with the hook and loop can be a little irritating to the back of your neck. So if you're wearing this for a couple of hours, that can be a little irritating. What I would do sometimes is I'd tuck a handkerchief around this after I had it in there, and that would not only function as a guard for the rough spots, but it would also be something of a sweat gatherer as well. So this mask wouldn't get quite as drenched whenever I was out there cutting grass and whatnot. Another good thing about this one is it does have these removable filters in the mask. As you can see, you can twist those out and they can be replaced and also washed and what have you. It has a nice little foam band around the nose here, and also a metal piece in the nose coupling here, so that you can get a nice form fit around the nose. And that's important for a number of different reasons, but mainly with someone like me who wears glasses, and also whenever I was in the yard, I would normally wear some type of protective lens, so you don't get something that goes flying up in your eye, which I've had happen before, and been wearing the protective lenses, thankfully, and not gotten a nice little rock or whatnot in the eye because of that. But this band in here, what it does is it really gives a good seal to where when you're breathing, you don't get that fog that happens so often when if you're a glasses wearer, you know what I'm talking about. That happens by virtue of the heat from your breath getting caught up inside of your lenses. Very annoying thing, but with that band in there, that creates a opportunity for that not to happen for you. The main criticism with this mask, especially in the summer heat, is that this thing is very hot. This is some very dense material. As you can see, it's got the liner here on the inside, which is an actual plastic type material. I'm not really sure if it's 100% plastic, but it definitely has the feel of like a a plastic material, but it gets very warm, especially with like the neck guard and all this other stuff in here. So very high quality mask, very good in terms of durability, very good in terms of filtration, just hot as balls and a little bit uncomfortable as well. So, again, if you're looking for max protection and if you're a little bit paranoid, this might be the way to go for you, but just be advised that it might not be the most comfortable thing in the world. Moving on to something a bit more simple in terms of its design, actually a lot more simple in terms of its design, is this mask, which was given to me by my mother-in-law. It's a mask made by a company called Norwex. If you're not familiar with Norwex, they are a unique company in that they have a patent on this style of material, which is supposed to allow for cleaning without using as many harsh chemicals as you would otherwise. For example, they have some materials that are intended to clean, like glass, for example, without using Windex or some other stringent material, and give you that nice streak-free finish that you want on glass. And they've got other stuff as well that's intended for cleaning without usage of harsh chemicals and whatnot. So they've begun making masks. A lot of companies have done that to try and sort of diversify their product offerings these days, but they were pretty quick to get on it here, because she had this for me, I think, at least, I'd say around maybe May or so, whenever I was given this mask originally. So they've been doing this for a while. As you can see, it's very lightweight, very thin in terms of the construction of the material, but this material is not just like a handkerchief type thing. It's thicker than that, and you can feel it whenever you actually have it in your fingers to see, okay, well, this is much more dense than just a traditional piece of, bandana type cloth or whatnot. You can kind of see the ridges in there as well in terms of what I'm talking about, and seeing that that is what really diversifies this from a lot of other stuff, and saying this is what's catching and providing, the filtration that you want in a mask like this. This is the style, of course, that hooks over your ears. Comfortable enough in terms of where you could wear this for a little bit of time and it not be intrusive at all. Two issues in terms of this mask here that I have. One is that for my face, and this is something that's going to be unique to me, I have a big head, and by virtue of that, also a big face. So in terms of this fitting, this is not that great, because these ear loops really have to stretch in order to get to my ears. And with me already wearing glasses, these can be a little bit more than what you want in terms of pull for someone who's going to be wearing this for maybe an hour or two, depending on what you're doing in a public setting. The other part of this, other than the size of this not being all that adequate for me, may be fine for you, but again, not being adequate for me, is also the fact that you'll notice that it does not have any kind of a nose band. There's nothing in there to give you a nice form fit. So again, someone like me who's a glasses wearer, for this, it is not going to be the best thing possible, because when I'm wearing this mask, within a matter of moments, if I go from inside to outside, if I go from outside to inside, I should say, and I begin breathing normally, this mask will cause my glasses to fog up almost immediately. So 2 strikes there in terms of, well, I guess it'll be 3 strikes almost, in terms of this not being a really ideal mask for me. But for other people, maybe perfectly fine. Again, this is all my experience with these things, but your experience may totally vary. Good in terms of construction, good in terms of it being a nice lightweight material, not so great in terms of the function or the fit of these, because it's a little bit gappy in terms of it being able to allow permeation of the atmosphere around you, and also in terms of the fit, not really that great for me. Here's the one that I thought was going to be the end-all be-all for me. This is a Gator Scarf, or I think, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but I think in some circles it could be called a balaclava. I think I got that wrong, but I might be close, so don't rake me too far over the coals. But at any rate, this is a Gator Scarf that's been a little bit modified in terms of the design to be equipped with an ear loop on each side, of course, there, and a little bit of a gap here on the back to allow for better fitment in terms of wearing a hat and whatnot. Still got the nice little droop area here in the front to cover anything as far as maybe a gapped open polo shirt or whatnot. So that's let me get back in the frame there. There you go. You can see that better now. I really thought this was going to be the way to go for me. I felt like this was going to be, the one that was going to be it. I'll flip this around so you can see the front of it here. Unfortunately, this didn't really pan out to be all that great of a purchase. So for starters, this is very thin material. Like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say this came off the same line as maybe something that was intended to be maybe ladies' lingerie or whatnot, because this is very, very thin. I don't think that you could get really anything to be stopped by this at all. I haven't done the test on these or at least on this one, to say, okay, can you breathe through this and it put out a flame, for example, but I'm pretty sure it would be able to pass straight through. Very thin material. And you can see this is almost like jersey type material. It has these little holes in it. It's kind of hard to see, but you can pick it up a little bit on the camera there. The interesting thing about that was that these holes, while they're tiny, my beard was able to get hung in these things. So when I was putting this all on the first time, I was like, what the hell is going on? And sure enough, I didn't realize it at first, but those holes are enough to where my beard can poke through them. So that gives you an idea of just how big those holes actually are. So if my hair can go through them, definitely a microbe could go through them. The other thing about these masks is that, a lot of people have been wearing these because of the comfort level with them. They're not something that's going to be as restrictive in a lot of ways for most folks. This one, even with it being this sort of stretchy material, was too small for my head. I hate to say that, but I got a big head and I got a big neck. I'm a big guy. What can you say? So this was tight. The holes in here, as we mentioned, are another reason not to be a big fan of these. The ear holes on this were a good idea in terms of providing support. Some people I've seen wearing these style scarves had put like ear slits in them themselves to increase the sort of fit of these masks. But what has come to pass with these, and this is really something that's been a issue for some folks now that, of course, this is going to be me talking about the inevitability, or excuse me, this is going to be the inevitability of me talking about something to do with theme parks. Magic Kingdom and some of the Disney parks have reopened. Disney is not allowing these in the parks. And from what I can tell, Universal is, but from what I can tell, I've been doing some reading, the reason why is that if you take one of these scarves and you wear it up around your nose, and then say, for example, you're wearing in the Florida heat there a pair of sunglasses and a hat, you've got a real total coverage in terms of providing yourself with a real good mask, a real good way of hiding your identity there. So what they're concerned with is security with these things. They're concerned that people might think of this as being an opportunity to, knock over a 7-Eleven, only they're concerned about it being one of the gift shops in the Magic Kingdom. So if you're going to the Magic Kingdom, or if you're going out in public in general, you might want to second guess the old Gator Scarves here, because they may not be permissible depending on where you're going. Definitely not to any of the Disney theme parks for sure. And yeah, that's been a surprise for a lot of folks, because we've had stories of people getting turned away and having to go back to their cars and whatnot to drop these things off, or just plain leave them, period, and get something else to wear so they can go into the theme parks. Now this might be where things begin to get a little absurd, because of course, me being a professional wrestling fan, of course, if I have an opportunity to invest in something related to a personal protective piece of equipment that also has to do with wrestling, I'm going to do it. And that's what we've got right here. These are a pair of masks made by a company called luchamasks.com. It's lucha-masks.com. I'll put a link to them in the description down below there. So if you're interested in taking a look at their catalog, you can see all that they've got to offer. The one here in my left hand is styled after the masks worn by the unfortunately now deceased professional wrestler Hayabusa. Was really impressed with the way this looks in terms of it really capturing the lower half of what, the style of mask that he wore. And then this is a mask patterned after some of the ones that were worn by Samurai del Sol, which of course now is Kalisto in WWE. This was patterned after some of the ones he wore prior to him getting signed by the company, and when he was still on the independent circuit working in promotions like PWG and whatnot. As you can see, these are great looking masks. I cannot fault them at all in terms of the quality of the stitch work, in terms of the quality of the material that's used. Really cool looking masks, and they've got a lot of great options on their website there for all kinds of styles from luchadors past, present, all the way around there in terms of what they have to offer in terms of their store. Not terribly expensive either. I was expecting to pay more for these. I think I paid like maybe $40 for the two of these here, which, considering the material and all that's involved in these things, not bad at all. Other than just the fact that these were patterned after luchadors masks, the thing that I especially liked about these was that they go behind the head with these straps here. There was no like ear loops to these things. You had these nice elastic straps that were going to provide you a nice good fit, and it really was advantageous for someone like me, because this, again, I've got a big head, big neck. This was a great solution there, because it provides a good form fit around your entire head there without having to bunch around your ears or create an uncomfortable scenario for someone like me who wears glasses. But even with the quality of the material and the fit of the elastic bands here, two criticisms. No band around the nose gear there whatsoever in terms of providing a nice form fit. So they kind of can flop around there. So in terms of, again, being a glasses wearer, with these, there were some times where when I was wearing them, they would cause my lenses to fog up, just by virtue of there being some gaps around here and allowing the gases from my exhale to get up into the lens and cause fog. The other thing is that these are very thick, and you can see, I'm going to kind of flip this one inside out here a little bit. You can see just how thick that material is there. So between this backing layer and the fact that you, in some cases, like with this one with the Hayabusa mask, you've got several additional layers of material in there. So this is very thick, and in terms of breathing normally and just not feeling restrictive, this was kind of a challenge. They're made that way for a reason. They're trying to encourage, they're trying to prohibit the spread of particulate matter through persons' respiration and whatnot. So they're doing the right thing in terms of creating something that's thick, but it's to a point where it's so thick that it's almost uncomfortable, especially in prolonged wear. But again, that's just something that's sort of a caveat in buying one of these potentially. You have to be aware of that kind of thing. It's probably too, we're here in the South where right now, for example, on the day I'm recording this, it's better than 95 degrees outside. So wearing something this thick where you've got your own hot breath up against your skin can be pretty uncomfortable. But that's just where we are here in the world. So the pluses on this one: great designs, great quality craftsmanship for the amount of money you pay there, and also great fit in terms of the elastic. On the downside, a little bit thick in terms of the material, and also no nose band up here to give you a nice custom fit. But a very great product regardless there from luchamasks.com. All right, so we've been through a lot of different iterations here in terms of styles of mask, and I've always had something a little positive and a little negative to say about each one of them. Haven't quite found the perfect one yet, and there may not be the perfect one, because again, these are all my experiences in terms of the things that I've found in trying to find a good mask that was going to be a solution for me to wear and be comfortable in. So the things that I was really trying to focus on in continuing my search for a mask were to be, one, a good sized mask that would fit around my face, something that had a nasal band that would allow for a nice form fit, something that was thick enough to provide adequate protection without being so thick that it made you feel like you were going to be claustrophobic, and also something that had a good ear straps that also would be accommodating for someone like myself that wears glasses. So those were the things that I was really focused on. And I did, some fairly exhaustive looking around for things, and this is a good marketplace in this time, because there are tons of companies manufacturing these masks. Absolutely tons of companies that have tried to not only diversify their product base by having masks be on the catalog of things that they produce, but also just in terms of trying to really make something that fits great and that serves a lot of people. So in doing my research, I found a company called Mambe Blankets, actually. Now, you're going to say, well, blankets? We're not talking about blankets, we're talking about masks. Well, that's true. Mambe Blankets is a company based out of Seattle, Washington. They make high-end waterproof blankets. They're intended for, outdoors and whatnot. But they've gotten into the game of making PPE, these masks here being some examples of what they have to offer. I ordered 2 of them, and I'll show you the reason why I ordered 2. They have a lot of different color options on their website, which again, I'll put a link in the description down below as to how you can take a look at what they've got. But this is the mask here that I got from them, one of them anyway. And I'll show you a couple different features as to why I really fell in love with this style of mask. First and foremost, in giving you a sort of once-over of the anatomy of this thing, you can see that the structure of this gives you a very nice high profile in terms of it being able to really fit someone who has a pretty good sized face, because this is of course the top here where the bridge of the nose would be, and down here would be somewhere around your chin. So this is a good sized mask in terms of being able to fit a lot of people, and especially someone who's got a bigger face like me. So that was a great thing that I was able to notice right off the bat. Moving down, you have the ear straps here. Now you'll see, well, that looks pretty loose. Well, yeah, but that's the idea, because if you move on down here, look what it's got. A adjustability knob. So with this thing here, you can push this little button and you get yourself a nice little custom fit in terms of how these straps are going to be tightened around your head. So that is really what's going to be providing the proper fit. Guess what? Totally custom by virtue of this design feature. So this will fit literally anybody. So I was really impressed with that, the fact that they took the time to look and see, okay, well, what can we do to provide a custom fit for literally a broad range of people, or really anyone for that matter. Moving around to the actual material itself, this is, and one thing I'll point out too, in none of these that I've pointed out here or that I've shared here today, do they have the pocket for a filter to go in them. I think that they've pretty well established that the filter may or may not be useful. It may not be necessarily required per se. If you really want that level of protection, these aren't going to be ones to consider. However, they are very thick and stringent in terms of being able to prevent the flow of respiration and whatnot in terms of particulate coming in and out. For example, this material here is similar to the feel of, it's almost like felt, but it's more akin to the structure of the material that the Norwex mask was made out of that I showed you earlier. There you can see their Mambe emblem there, and that's on the front faceplate here of the mask. A good material, good stitching in terms of the construction that the mask is made of here. But here's the other big thing that I like. See that? There is a metal bar right there. It's aluminum, so it's not like it's, going to be hard on your nose or whatnot. But there's an aluminum bar in there that gives you the ability to get a nice form fit around your nose. And this is a real lifesaver in terms of people like me, because this is going to give you just enough of a clasp around your nose there to where it's going to prevent the backflow of anything that you're breathing out from shooting up around your nose and getting up into your eye sockets. So for those reasons, the masks that I got here from Mambe, they're going to be the top of the heap in terms of what I've found anyway. I'm sure there's a lot of others out there that could be, just as well made as these are. But in terms of what I have personally experienced, these masks from Mambe are really the cat's ass. I'm really impressed with these. The cost for these was about $12 per mask. The one negative I have to say about the experience I had with this purchase was the fact that I paid for 2-day shipping, and it took close to a week and a half to get here. So I'm not quite sure what the deal was there, other than the fact that it was shipped through USPS, and they're not exactly known for being able to live up to expectations in terms of shipping. So as I mentioned, these were $12 each. With the shipping cost, it was around $38. So again, even if you were looking at these, if you were to go to a store and buy a pair of masks like this, I would say $20 per mask for something like this is not bad if you were to sort of absorb the shipping cost into it. But they had all sort of colors and all sort of options in terms of things that you could look for in terms of maybe some customization options on there if you wanted to go for a particular set of colors. I got gray and black. That matches most of what I tend to wear in terms of my normal clothing and whatnot. My my closet is mostly black t-shirts, so this is going to go with about whatever I wear. But again, very impressed with these, and just super pleased with the purchase here. Other than the shipping, I have no negative comments about that product there whatsoever. So definitely would recommend the masks from Bombay Blankets. Again, a little bit weird that it's a blanket company, but based in Seattle, Washington. There, a nice American company. But always good to support American. Can't go wrong with anything about these as far as I'm concerned. So there you have it, our look at a couple different styles of masks and whatnot. Unfortunately, we're at this point in human history where these things are now somewhat required. And just as a personal message, I know nobody really wants to wear these things. Do I want to wear these? Personally, no. Do I have to? Will I do it because it's going to be beneficial going forward? Sure. The thing that you have to be mindful of, in my opinion, in looking at these things is, one, find something that's going to fit you well. Two, if you can find something that's going to match part of your personality or in some way allow you to be expressive, then that's going to make it even better for you. Because, there's a lot of companies out there making things that are equipped with logos for bands or sports teams or whatever. I'm sure you could even find some that had, the possibility of putting your own personal design on there if you wanted to, depending on if you had a company that was associated with a graphic printer or whatnot. But that's just something that you have to bear in mind when you're looking around for these things. Don't consider it something that's going to be a problem. Try and if you can all do it, try and think of these as being a opportunity to buy a pair of shoes or a shirt or whatever. Try and find something that's going to make you not only comfortable but also to express yourself as well. And that's what I did with this. You're going to say, okay, well, you found a plain black mask. Well, guess what? I wear plain black t-shirts all the time. That's just kind of who I am. And guess what? That fits better than anything that I found. So it was the best of both worlds. But this is my experience. Your experience may totally vary. A lot of these may do just fine for you, and that's great, because guess what? We're all different in terms of the way things are going to fit around our skulls. So just wanted to give you guys a hint of my experience in terms of looking at these things and some stuff you might want to be looking out for. Again, I think the Gator mask, or the Gator Scarf, is probably the most disappointing one of the entire bit there, in terms of it being not only something that didn't fit all that well, but that might not be really all that permissible going forward. Really enjoy the mask from Lucha Masks. Great quality, great design, a little thick. That's okay though. The Norwex stuff, very comfortable, very lightweight. Not all that great in terms of fit, in terms of being able to cover a face the size of mine, but whatever. Your face is probably a lot smaller than mine is. The tech mask here, really hardcore, really going to cover you and get you great protection. Maybe a little overkill, maybe a little hot and sweaty, but hey, if you want ultimate protection, that's going to be what you go for. The Bombay mask, perfect as far as I'm concerned. Great fit, able to be customized to fit pretty much any head out there. One thing I didn't mention, they do have multiple size options. I got the adult. They do have a smaller option there as well for children. So that's one thing to consider there as well. But, again, this is my experience. I hope this has been beneficial in terms of giving folks a talking point and saying, hey, this is what we can look out for when we go shopping for our masks. And being able to wear something that's a little bit better than just the stuff that you find in the stores, that's made of paper and whatnot, because I really don't think those do much of anything at all. This stuff is going to be much more protective for you. All these can be washed in some way, shape, or form and maintained. They're intended for multiple uses. Tech mask here with the filters, those can be purchased and replaced occasionally if you really wanted to, again, get full use out of this thing. But they can be, of course, rinsed out too occasionally. So there you have it. Hope this helps a little bit. Hope you enjoyed the talking points here. If you enjoyed the program, go ahead and give it a like. Leave us a comment if you have any type of feedback on some of the reviews here, or if you've got a personal mask that you enjoy, post it in the comments there. Be glad to hear what you've got to say, because we're all trying to help each other at this point in time to get through this thing and to hopefully protect one another along the way there. So appreciate you tuning in. See you around.